Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple of different ways that people's houses are making them sick, an update on the father who faked his own death, parents who drug their kids to go to sleep, and piles of human cremains found in the desert. All that and more on today's episode. Let's talk about how houses are making people sick.
All right, so first up, we have Madi Prewett of The Bachelor. So she recently shared that her and her husband bought a home around the time they got married in October 2022 and immediately faced a bunch of issues. So I want to say welcome to the club, sister, because so did I.
Yeah, I think that most people that buy a house could say this, that they have some kind of issues when they move in, but hers were like a little bit more severe than the average homeowner. They felt like they were both getting sick at the house, and they knew that it was specific to the house because when they would leave, they would feel better.
Yeah, and they noticed some mold, and they said there was a bunch of bugs in the house, and they just assumed that their illness was related to the mold. So they had this guy come in, or I guess a plumber come in to investigate it, and he immediately said, you know what, I'm going to test the house for gas.
Yeah, so he puts on the gas meter, and the thing started going nuts. And he was like, oh, you see that fireplace over there? Have you used it? And they said, yeah, we just use it with this little remote. And then he said, well, do you turn off the gas after you use it? And they say, yeah, we just turn it off with this remote. And he's like, no, you actually have to turn off the gas. And here they were living there for what, 3 months almost?
Yeah.
And they had never turned the gas off. The gas line was open the entire time.
Let me tell you how this would happen to me. No problem at all. I wouldn't even think about it.
Listen, like, this is a serious, like, they're lucky they're not dead, because if they, like, lit a candle or turned on a gas stove, like, that house would have exploded.
Do you think they had electric heat or electric oven then? Because
they had to have. How do you not light a flame in 3 months living somewhere? I don't know.
No, totally. I mean, they're absolutely lucky. They're lucky they didn't get more sick. They're lucky the house didn't blow up. This could have been really horrific.
So I guess my question is, like, what? Normally, if your gas line is open, it smells like eggs, right?
Yeah.
In your house, if you leave your stove on by accident. So normally, like, natural gas is mostly made up of methane, which is what she's saying was a methane gas leak. But they put a tag on it of mercaptan, which makes it smell. That's because normally natural gas has no smell. The whole reason that it smells is because they want to alert homeowners to exact situations like this. Where were they getting gas from that didn't have mercaptan in it? I don't understand.
I guess another question I have is, was it only open in the 3 months they owned the house, or did the previous homeowner open it? Because wouldn't they have known there was that turnkey on the side that operated the gas line or not, if they had to turn it on to use the fireplace in the first place?
Like, I know that you're saying that you would do this, but, like, if you're going to own a house, you have to have a brain a little bit. Right? Like, seriously, like,
yeah, but there's things that have happened in my house that people acted like I was an absolute idiot over, but I just really didn't know.
Like, when you light a grill, for example, I light the grill a couple times a week when I go outside and cook, right? You open the propane, and then you have to go over to the grill itself and light it. Right?
Yeah.
As soon as I turn off the burners on the grill, I go back to the propane tank and turn off the propane. Like, all that little remote is doing is just causing a little flicker to ignite it. That's all that does.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, did they know that's how it operated?
Well, like, if you're operating gas products in your house, you should know that, right?
Yeah, but think about what happened in my house. Remember when we bought the house and they made that whole big deal about that oil tank being in the basement because it wasn't in use and all this stuff? And then a couple months later, I mean, this is going to come across as me being a huge idiot. So like then winter time comes, I have the heat on and then my heat stops working. I have a guy come out and he's like, "You ran out of oil, idiot," basically, right? And I'm like, "Well, I thought the house was forced heat. I didn't know it was coming from the oil tank."
Well, I mean,
And they made a point to make that big deal of it. Remember when we were looking at the house that the tank shouldn't even have been there? But
yeah,
that's where it was coming from anyway.
yeah. I mean, I get that. I get that. And that's what happens when like you young kids buy a house and you don't really like understand the full depths of like what cuz like mommy and daddy always took care of it for you, So like I understand that. It's just like you have to have a certain level of like understanding of how things work because dude, this case could have been really 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 bad.
No, 100%.
It's like imagine seriously, like even outside, not in a confined space. Imagine if you left the propane open on the grill to be leaking out like that for months. I mean, it would just cause a huge explosion.
I still don't understand. But even with does the propane not smell? I feel like you could hear like a hissing. I feel like you know when it's on. Like, how did they just not know it was on? There was no
Well,
sound, there was no smell.
It happens at my house often. Like I don't know, I'll bump into one of the burners on the grill or something like that, and all of a sudden I'm in the kitchen and I'm like, I smell gas.
Yeah, but you smell it. That's my point. Like, how
Yeah,
did it not smell,
I
and how did they not like hear it
they
coming
didn't
out in
have
any
it
way?
wasn't it was coming because they said it was methane gas. I don't know where it was coming from, but it wasn't tagged with a mercaptan, and that's exactly why it didn't smell. It's just but like to her defense, how do you even know that? I mean, I don't know where they were tapping in, but it's just freaking scary. I'm surprised they probably actually called the fire department right away because that's like a serious concern of an explosion of that level, and they probably had to evacuate for a while.
Yeah, I guess the point I just don't understand is like, if they turned that key when they first moved in to use it, why did they then not realize
They
it had to be
it might
shut
have been
off?
it might have been open from the previous homeowner, or I don't know, or maybe they just thought like while you're using it, you just keep it open.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but super dangerous. So, in a similar case, this other chick and her husband bought a new house last May, and then shortly after, she started having redness around her eyes. So, she was taking these selfies, and she was like, "Why do I look so ugly in these selfies?" But it turned out to be from this crazy mold infestation in her house.
Yeah, it's actually crazy how it went down because she like and the picture when you see the pictures, you could see it is very obvious that something's going on with her face. And it almost looks like she has like dark red circles under her eyes, but her eyelids themselves look like they have pink eyeshadow on. And for most people that have ever tried to put on pink eyeshadow, it doesn't that's exactly what it looks like. You got some kind of
Sickly.
weird infection or something. Yeah. So she went on TikTok and all of these people were leaving comments like, dude, you got mold in your house. That's what that's from. You're having some kind of reaction to it, which is what keyed her in. And then she started ripping stuff up and they found that there was mold in the house. Underneath of the carpet, they got some mold sniffing dog, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that before.
It's cool. Like we should actually I feel like we should interview someone that has one of these dogs because there's all sorts of different like they're trained to find live people, they're trained to find decomposed people, they're trained to find drugs. Like it's kind of really interesting.
Well,
Like
CrimeCon.
I'm curious about yeah, like they're because Maria was like, oh, they announced that 4 dogs are going to CrimeCon or something. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to meet them.
That's
But
what
yeah,
I'm
maybe
saying.
we could talk to them, not the dogs, their handlers, and see how they train them because it's really interesting.
But thank God they discovered this. I mean, it sucks that she had to be sick like that because she was experiencing other symptoms first before the rash came up on her face.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people probably have something like this in their house and they don't even know it. But then other times, because this is like an actual good example too. Like her husband lives in the same exact house as her, and he's like not really getting that sick. He doesn't work from home, so he leaves for a while and stuff. But like some people are it's just allergies. Right now, like whatever ragweed craziness is going on right now, like 2 weeks ago, I was a mess allergy wise. nobody else in my house is. Like, it's the same kind of a thing. So everyone doesn't have a reaction to it in the same way.
And then she was saying she had to get rid of a bunch of her stuff, including electronics, because the spores were so deeply embedded in
Yeah,
them.
which sucks. And they're like microscopic. You can't see them, and it's just it's scary. The interesting thing about this article is that she's like, "Oh, I thought I was getting a deal when I got this house for $400,000," and you're like, $400,000 for a house is a deal
Well,
in
today it's a
in
deal.
Columbus, Ohio. Like I could see in like New York City or California or something, but I don't know.
New York City, a deal is getting like a $1.2 million
Yeah,
apartment.
exactly.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like a one bedroom efficiency or something, but I don't know, like so now they had to put $10,000 of remediation work into it. They did say they had an inspection, but we all know these inspectors are not good.
I had an inspection too, and
A
they
lot of
didn't
them aren't
catch
good
like
anyway.
5 major, huge
Major,
red
like
flags.
yeah, like not having your house hooked up to the sewage system and a hidden cesspool underneath of your front lawn, that one.
Or mold under the only drop ceiling in a very small part of my house because there was a giant hole in the roof, and every time it rained, it would just rain in my living room, which we discovered on day 2 of living in our house. But
Well, listen,
that's just, normal things they
any
miss.
person that knows anything about houses will tell you that a drop ceiling in a place that really shouldn't have one should be an alarm.
But I think most inspectors wouldn't reply when you call them out about it that, well, it looked good, so why would I look underneath of it? And you're like, well,
Oh, there's no way on the planet Earth that they replaced one of the tiles before they were selling the house.
all right. So last fall we talked about this dad, Ryan Borgwart. This was my favorite Nancy episode of all time last year. He faked
It really was. Talk about that a little bit.
So she was covering this case, and she was covering this one specific detail because this girl had taken a video of a guy riding his bike, and it was believed to be this guy, Ryan Borgwart, but I think later they determined it was a totally separate guy that happened to look like him and almost had an identical story.
The video was weird though because this lady was taking a video of some guy who was saying really weird shit that he would like fake his own death and move to another country or something. It was like
but wasn't
really
it
bizarre.
the same exact country? Wasn't he going to like Uzbekistan or something?
Yeah, like it was just bizarre. And you're like, okay, there's another person on this planet that would fake their own death and go to Uzbekistan. Like, okay. Anyway.
So then there was an attorney on there. I was trying to find this episode, but she has so many, so it was hard to find. But I believe he said something along the lines of like at least he tried to set up his family by setting up a life insurance. Something that made it seem like what he did wasn't that bad. She reamed this guy out.
It was great.
I very rarely will when I'm listening to a podcast or watching a show, cackle out loud. I was crying, laughing to the point where Ricky was like, "What is going on?" I'm like, Nance is just a gem. She's so fun.
She's just like ripping this guy a new one, man. Oh God. I feel like that particular one, I was like listening to it in the kitchen while I was like cooking, and I just was like, is this really happening right now? And then I was like, Ray, you gotta listen to this. This is outrageous.
No, it was incredible.
You can probably, you know what? Because she does like YouTube. You can probably like, can you search terms in people's YouTubes for videos?
Yeah, I'll try to find it and link it on here.
Yeah, maybe we could play it for our next YouTube live because I think that'll be of interest.
Oh my God, her reaction was just priceless. But for those of you who don't remember, we did cover this story last fall. So Ryan Borgwart faked his death by staging a kayaking incident, when in reality he was talking to this woman overseas and just basically, faked his death and somehow really quickly was able to get to Eastern Europe before they figured out what happened. He was missing for 89 days, so now he's been sentenced to 89 days in jail to reflect the amount of days he was missing, even though they suggested he only do 45 days in jail. But I think this judge is awesome for being like, no, you're going to do the exact amount of days you were missing for.
Right? And from his wife's, so he was married and had children. So she thinks, I mean, but not only that, there were resources used. Like they were like combing the lake and like looking for him and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think $30,000 is letting him off easy for the amount and the worry that he put on his family.
I think at the time when this happened, we were debating like how he was going to get charged because technically there's no crime crime of faking your own kidnapping, it's typically what you're saying, like wasting police resources. But he technically didn't do it because his wife reported him missing. He didn't do it, and there was no fraud necessarily involved because his wife would have filed the life insurance policy claim. But they're saying that his charge was for misleading police. So I thought that was great. And there needs to be charges for falsifying crimes like this.
Yeah, it should, and it really should be a crime to. It should be a crime to fake your own death because it's not obviously like it's not hurting you, but it's going to hurt any person that's a human living in society. It might affect someone in some kind of a way.
So also at the time, we didn't know exactly how he got there. We knew at the time that he went through Canada, but not exactly what went down. So this article is saying, after stashing an e-bike near the boat lodge, he paddled his kayak in a child-sized inflatable boat out into the lake, overturned the kayak to look like a fake accident. He paddled the inflatable boat to shore and rode his e-bike through the night to Madison, Wisconsin. There, he boarded a bus to Detroit and then to the Canadian border, and then he continued on a bus to the airport, got on the plane, and landed, I believe, in the country of Georgia.
Wasn't there something that like this Uzbekistan person wasn't even like real or something?
That's what I thought. I didn't see anything mentioned
Yeah,
about
I
this in
feel
this
like
article.
I heard that too. Like it's just like number one, you hate your wife and kids that much that you're gonna freaking ride a bike in the middle of the night to Canada.
I
Like,
don't think it's about them. He's just clearly a loser. And he was talking
or like
to
this girl's so hot. Like, it's just so weird.
I think he was talking to an AI bot in Uzbekistan and they agreed to meet in Georgia. So that's how he ended up over there. And then I don't think that Georgia has extradition with the United States. So he had to come back willingly, which I was surprised he did. But like, how is he going to survive over there?
So another question that hasn't been answered is like, did the lady divorce him? Like,
I would hope so.
I
Out of
would
pure
hope so too,
embarrassment
but
principles.
yeah, but people have been known to stay with bigger scumbags. Like, I'm just putting it out there.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, so Forensic Friday is tomorrow, and we have a really good case for you this week about dismembered body parts. So make sure you tune in for that. We also have a really an interesting case to talk about how terrible it is to get warts on your body anywhere, but particularly genital warts, and how disfiguring it could be. And just one particular case with a treatment that's really interesting to see.
Yeah, head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
All right, this next case is for you parents out there. Is it okay to drug your kids to get them to go to sleep?
I think this is interesting. This is coming up because we've talked about Casey Anthony a lot. It's definitely one of the cases that, when I first started getting interested in true crime was happening. And this was one of the points they brought up, that she possibly gave Benadryl or some form of drug to Kaylee, and that's what led to her death. And then they tried to cover it up, allegedly, since she was not convicted. So in this case in Texas, a man has been convicted of manslaughter after giving his 2-month-old baby Benadryl to have, quote, alone time with his wife, which ultimately caused the baby's death.
So this is interesting because you're allowed to give your kids Benadryl when indicated for allergies to go to sleep, and it wouldn't be considered a crime if they accidentally died if you were giving them the proper dose. So there's lots of things to consider here. One of the things is let's just say this. If you do a simple Google search, it'll tell you that you should not give Benadryl ever to a baby that's under 6 months old. So right there, he's in the wrong for giving an infant that's 2 months old Benadryl. Even over 6 months old, you shouldn't be giving Benadryl ever. It's like they say even 2 years old. Unless your doctor says give the baby this amount. At the same time, there are charts online that say for a baby that's 6 to 11 or like 11 to 16 pounds or something, half a teaspoon. So they didn't say in the article what the toxicology level was on this kid, but I guess he could argue in theory that he found this chart and his baby was 16 pounds. I don't even think a baby would be even 16 pounds. Maybe 11 pounds is more reasonable, though. Okay, like if he was like Well, I know my kid's 11 pounds, and I looked up this Benadryl chart, and it said that it was okay to give half a teaspoon. If they were able to say that, he probably could get in trouble, but not as much, maybe just for negligence, because you're not supposed to give a baby Benadryl, right? So in this case, I'm assuming that the baby had a significant amount of Benadryl. And really, you're never supposed to give a child drugs of any kind. Even adults are not, you're not supposed to take Benadryl if you're not having an acute allergy, which needs, you know, your eyes are watering and your nose is running out of your face and you need it to like shut off, or you have hives or something like that. All the reasons that you would take Benadryl. Like, adults shouldn't be taking it to go to sleep, and you definitely shouldn't be giving it to children to sleep, especially just so you could have alone time with your wife.
Well, yeah, I want to point out some things in this case too. So the first of all, there's 6 kids in this house. So the prosecution's arguing that they regularly gave kids meds to make them go to sleep so they could have alone time to themselves. And this wasn't at night. The police responded to this baby being unconscious at 4 p.m. So it's not
Yeah.
like this kid wouldn't go to bed. I mean, this was what,
Well, a
arguably a nap
2-month-old
time?
a 2-month-old baby sometimes doesn't go to bed. Like,
Well,
that's
yeah.
not the period where you're like, okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm laying this kid in the crib and they're going to be sleeping till 7 the next morning. Like, this is the period when a child is still waking up in the middle of the night to feed, right?
Yeah. So the defense is saying, however, he and his wife had failed to communicate that they had each administered Benadryl to Athena on separate occasions. So is that trying to
Mm.
say that they both gave her Benadryl on the same day and
Which
that's what led to her death?
which is fine, but I'm telling you right now, and this goes for Tylenol or anything like that. When you look like, let's say, for example, Lillian's 12 years old and she's 100 pounds. I don't know what her Tylenol dosage is right now. I could go up and look up a chart online and it'll tell me, right? And might say, okay, she could take one 500 milligram pill. If I gave her 2, she wouldn't die. They do that on purpose because parents are administering a drug, so they give you like a low dose. In actuality, the kid could probably have like triple or quadruple of that amount, who knows, without having any kind of injury. And they've told me as much too in poison control. When I told you one time by accident, I don't know how it was an accident, but Lucia took 2 doses of Zyrtec one night because she drank it and then she drank the other one, and then I told Lillian to go take hers and she didn't. It was like a mess, and I called poison control because I was convinced that my kid was going to die in her sleep, and they were like, no, she needs to have like a lot to get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, they do that on purpose because accidents happen with parents. Like, somehow, like, kid takes 2 by accident or whatever. Like, it was my fault because I wasn't watching them. So that's what I'm saying right here. Like, if they did look up online and it said half a teaspoon, right? And
Mhm.
dad gave it to her and the mom didn't know, and then the mom gave it to her and they didn't know. 1 teaspoon of this medicine isn't going to kill this kid. So that's what makes me think it was like
A
a
significant
lot.
amount. Or was it
Yeah.
an adult portion, not a
Who
children's
who even
portion?
knows? Who even knows? So I mean, it's just listen, like, people are doing this. This is the thing that people do. They give their kids medicine to go to sleep. This has been like buzz like forever, for my whole life. When you were younger, it was just like, oh, just give the kid Robitussin and put them to sleep. Like, it's like
It's not a good habit to get into.
it's not, and you really should just never. I mean, and you can't say like, oh, don't have Benadryl, because there's definitely times that kids need it for sure, but you just should never. Never ever give it to a child like that, like, because it causes they could have convulsions, seizures, and it leads to death. I mean, like, in this case. So I don't know. There's like a lot going on here because they also have 6 kids, and it's just like, oh, we just wanted them to sleep and stuff, and it's just like, well, dude, like,
But if you just wanted alone time, you wouldn't have 6 children.
exactly, like, there's more to the story here. So I just don't know how you would consider it accidental. Like, it's not. I told you the ways that it could be, but I just don't think it is.
All right, so about an hour outside of Vegas, this person is claiming they were on a dirt road and came across 70 piles of human cremains.
So It's funny. I sent this article to my friend Paul, who
I was just going to say that.
yeah, because he lives in Las Vegas. So Dr. Paul Kunaris, he's actually going to be on our show like in a couple weeks, right?
Couple weeks, yeah.
We're going to have him on, and he's got a lot to talk about, and we'll have him expand on this because I don't want to give away everything that he just told me on the phone. But I sent it to him because he lives in Las Vegas, and for any of you who follow him on Instagram, his Instagram is Hex and Cult, and I follow him too if you want to find him that way. But when he's not traveling the world and seeing other cool stuff, which he's going to talk about on our episode, he's just driving around in the desert in Las Vegas and like finding dead animals and just going in these old abandoned mines and all this really cool stuff. So I send it to him, of course, because I'm like, if anyone is driving around in the Las Vegas desert and coming across cremated remains, it's Paul, right? And he's just like, I sent him this article and he's like, yeah, I don't know why they think this is a big deal. He's like, I just took this picture today, and sends me, like, he literally was like, I just took this 5 minutes ago of cremains in the desert. He's like, I see them all day, every day. People, and I'll let him expand on why he thinks that they're out there. But I guess Paul is saying that this is a common occurrence.
I don't think it's weird to come across cremains in a situation like this. I think the amount of them in the piles they were in is what is weird.
Yeah, so they're saying like there's not really any laws for burying someone in the desert or putting their remains in the desert, but there are laws about like mass cremation, and clearly this is 70 different bodies. And what Paul said, and what I'll say right now is, which I agree with him to an extent, is that this could be, for example, we were just talking about this yesterday when we were talking about our family members dying and cremation and stuff like that. If your family member dies and you don't claim them at the hospital, they'll send their body to the medical examiner's office, at least around here anyway. Or if they die and they're at the medical exam
everywhere.
Yeah, like, but every place doesn't have a medical examiner's office, so it varies from state to state. But if you so your family member's at the medical examiner's office and they try to contact you and they find you and they're just like, you need to come pick this person up. Well, like, what if you have no money? Like, you might not have any money to do a funeral or anything. And a lot of times people just like leave their family members unclaimed. And eventually the medical examiner's office will like take all these people, because they can't have people living there for 5 or 10 years. They take them and get them cremated. And like, I believe in Philadelphia, at least when I was at the medical examiner's office, that these cremains get put, because I know that happened with the unclaimed fetuses that we would get at the hospital too. And like little babies and things like that. We had like a lot, and then they would come pick them up every couple months, do like a mass cremation and bury them in a cemetery. And like this way, if the family ever wanted to go visit, they at least had a place to go visit the remains of their loved one they couldn't afford. But I don't know, it might be like that's not happening in this case, and that's where all these bodies are coming from.
To that point, in Nevada, you're allowed to scatter ashes, but they said commercial distribution is not allowed, which I would say falls under that blanket of like a medical examiner putting all the unclaimed ashes in one bulk location.
Well, but that's not really commercial. That's like state. That's what I'm thinking. It's
no, I think that falls under that bracket of many people, because who else is under the guise of commercial?
A crematory or anybody that has unclaimed remains. I don't know.
That's just an unusual spot. Like, you're saying they put them in this like nice spot, and if you're like, this is like in the middle of a desert right outside of a small community.
What's bizarre is that like there's like 70 individual piles. Like, someone took the time to like pour out each individual, like they didn't just mix them all together and be like, here, like.
Well, they said they also found a bunch of fragments of zip ties and a broken urn at the scene. I don't know what that's about or if they're even connected. It just seems like a very unusual
the zip ties is very
site.
Weird. Yeah, right?
It's very unusual.
Yeah, well, like, listen, Paul's got, we'll talk to him in a couple weeks about this, because he's got, like, he knows everything when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it'll be a really interesting episode for sure.
Oh, it
if any of you have been following him over in Indonesia about what he's looking at right now, it's outrageous. And he was texting me and telling me all these stories, and I'm like, listen, like, someone else needs to hear this besides me, because this is so interesting. So We'll
It
talk
is-
to him about that.
It is interesting. And if you want to know more about what happens with unclaimed bodies, we actually did a great external exam. I believe it was in March of 2024. These two people wrote this awesome book called The Unclaimed. You could just search that in Mother Knows Death and it will come up. And they had written this book and talked about exactly what happens, at least in Los Angeles, with unclaimed bodies. And they ended up finding 4 people that were unclaimed and backtrack and learned what led to them, like what happened in their life that led to that point. And honestly, it's really upsetting to read that,
Yeah,
nobody
it
wants
is.
to pick up their loved
And I
one.
always used to think about that because we had circumstances at the hospital. Like I used to release all the bodies to the funeral homes, and they're, if someone was there, our rule was if they were there for more than 5 days, we would call the medical examiner and say, like, you have to come pick them up because we certainly can't have bodies decomposing in a hospital morgue refrigerator, right?
No.
And also, we didn't have the space to have like one of the spots taken up by somebody. And you understand, like, especially being in a city like Philadelphia, you would say, okay, people are from out of town. Like, it takes a couple days to get the funeral situated. But, like, in 5 days, if you don't have somebody picking up the body, like, you don't have to have the funeral, but it could stay at the funeral home because they can embalm the person and keep them there. Like, it's not our problem. And if you can't get the body, like, we would do certain circumstances if someone, like, for example, said, oh, I'm trying to get up the money and I need another 2 days, then we'd be like, okay, we were like inhumane, but like, we would just send it to the medical examiner's office, and you would just be like, sometimes you couldn't even find a family member to call, and you're like, how does this person not have anybody
Well,
to come pick them up? It's just sad.
yeah, it really is. All right, guys, we're looking forward to seeing some people at the CrimeCon kickoff party tonight, or you could see us at our live show tomorrow night. I think it's at 5:15, right?
Yeah.
But we can't wait to go to CrimeCon and see
5:15.
everybody.
Yeah, and that's going to be really cool. And then, of course, we're doing a live taping at CrimeCon. So we will let you guys listen to that episode and how incredibly awkward it might be for us.
Yeah.
Well, last year was the first time that we did it, and I think this time will be a little bit more natural for us. It's just hard because we're used to being in our, right now, like we're looking at our computers and doing this, and instead it's like we're looking at each other and sitting in front of an audience. It's just like a little bit of a different way to do our show, but
Yeah,
we're looking forward to it. We have some good stories saved up for that day.
It's definitely a big difference in what we're doing now versus then. But all right, we'll share it with you guys, though. You can determine for yourself if you think it's way more awkward than our normal show. Maybe, maybe not. All right, well, we're very excited to see everybody there. Please head over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you have stories for us, please submit them to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.